everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Rich Henck with PowerSum Technologies. We are a manufacturer's representative representing the manufacturers on the page here. Hitachi Cable, which is a Manchester, New Hampshire company. One of our own here in New England. Another one that's one of our own is Brightline. You may be familiar with Brightline, the cabinet company out of Worcester, Mass. 1934. Also representing B-Line by Eaton and Eaton Power Quality. Power Quality, which offers UPS systems, power distribution, and software to manage it all. Today I want to touch on Oberon. Oberon is the company that makes the wireless and zone enclosures for the physical protection of your wireless network. Just to touch on some of the growth of the wireless industry itself. Anybody familiar with exabyte? This is really one of the first times I had seen this. Take a terabyte and add about 6 zeros to it, and there's your compound annual growth rate from 2012 to 2017. Mostly driven by smartphones, laptops, tablets, etc. You can see the slide. Just a point of what the growth is and the importance of protecting some of that data that goes back and forth. The slide showing us top obviously is internet traffic over Wi-Fi, and that growth, tremendous growth. We also have tremendous growth over the mobile networks, and of course anything that's hardwired is declining. Let's take a look at some pictures. I don't know if you can see those from the back, but these are typical wireless installations, access points in the ceiling, surface mount. You can see the one in the lower left there. That's kind of a typical one where you take the ceiling clip and you just clip it right onto the grid. It works fine, but it's not always practical. We're going to look into some of the reasons why, especially when it comes to the healthcare industry in particular, with breaches in your plenum ceiling. Oberon, very, very concerned with code compliance. So you can take any non-plenum product and put it into one of their enclosures. And basically their enclosure, in this case, in the ceiling, is in the plenum. So there's flexibility there. We have standards that we comply with at Oberon for healthcare, retail, government, etc. Cover some of those. But obviously, Oberon is concerned with the convenience of accessing the access point for serviceability and security. I want it to look good, and we want the signal to perform as best as it can. And Cisco has guidelines for us that tell us how to mount things to make sure that you don't have too many access points for your needs. Specifically on healthcare and hospitals. The patient area is a very, very sensitive area, and there's always rules when it comes to working in the plenum space, and that is in that drop ceiling area. You want to make sure that stays sealed. If you can't let that stay sealed, you have to basically rent a cart. That's a tent. Slide that tent up. It's very labor intensive and really limits movability in and around hospital patient areas. You may have heard of something called ICRA, Infection Control Risk Assessment. It's basically procedures put in place to reduce infection in the hospital environment. Hospitals these days are very concerned about people returning after a visit to the hospital with a staph infection, because healthcare providers are not provided. So that's put hospitals on alert. Obviously, HIPAA compliance for patient privacy, very important. And in order to ensure that, we want to secure the endpoints, which are our access points. Some more pictures here where we might have some problems. You see a gap in the ceiling on the upper left. And there's that famous lamp it onto the ceiling grid look. It looks okay, but Well, there's a hole in the ceiling. That's not very good. The ICRA people at the hospital are going to have something to say about that. Poking holes with the antennas, it's not a perfect seal. It's going to cause more problems in that regard. Oberon has a product called the 1064, which basically will mount right into a drop-in area for a 2x2 ceiling tile. You can see the Cisco AP there. It locks in there via cam lock, so you've got the security, and you've got the protection of the plenum. On the right side, we can use a non-integrated antenna version. The antennas may protrude, therefore we use the dome. By the way, anything that is an ABS plastic in the world of Oberon is paintable. The question always comes up. The 1077 is an 8-inch deep product, so you can not only stick an access point in there, but other optical network transceivers, other type of transceivers that you might need in the ceiling. We also have specific enclosures that you'll see at the end of the program that are more conducive to storing those types of devices. On the right side, you'll take a look at the NEMA 4 rated 1028, and that is excellent for public safety equipment. The little domes that you see on that picture are antennas, and that one is capable of 5 antennas total. This is talking about the HIPAA requirements here, as I mentioned. It implements policies and procedures to limit physical access, and while you limit it, you need to allow authorized access. So there's a little bit of a challenge there, but the Oberon products do comply. They're lockable. Not everyone is lockable, but in this case you would want a lockable enclosure, and they do satisfy the requirements for the Portability and Accountability Act. Obviously, hospitals are strict code compliance compliers and are very interested in UL listings and such. The Oberon products all have UL listings. After all, there's power running to those enclosures. We want to make sure that that's covered and the proper labels are there. You always want to check those labels for any imposters. And that would be true also of any type of cabling product you use, whether it's low voltage, fire, what have you. You'll see some imposters out there without the UL listing that's going to be problematic for the local jurisdiction. Aesthetics are important, of course. So this improves the aesthetics, I think, based on what you saw from those earlier slides. The texture is powder coated, matches ceiling. Where we have issues where perhaps you have an older ceiling, we have different products to accommodate fading and things of that nature. Oberon in higher ed. Residence halls for security, obviously. The one on the left, a little bit labor intensive to get that cable over there on the surface mounted raceway, but a very popular choice for residence hall rooms. Also a popular choice, and I'll let you make your own deductions, a weatherproof enclosure for the residence hall. That's probably the party room. Classrooms and auditoriums, the one on the left is articulated. It's a 2-axis articulation, and it's got a cover there, paintable cover, and now you can pinpoint your access point exactly for that auditorium or large classroom coverage. On the right side, we can convert what would be a vertical mount, which is fairly useless in the world of AP, to a horizontal mount, which is exactly what Cisco recommends. That's our most popular product, that style. It's the least expensive, but truly it is the most functional, and it's incredibly secure. More for higher ed are the stadiums and any other outdoor type of application. We have the NEMA rated 1020 on the left, and of course with any stadium type of activity you've got plenty of Wi-Fi usage, so you'll see that especially of late in the last 5 years the access points in stadiums have been virtually ubiquitous. In the classrooms, talking about K-12, we have a lower cost version. This one is not a 2x2 metal drop-in insert. This one is a cut-in. So the product itself is about half price. Labor's a little bit more to cut it into that tile. This one also helps with that fading, which you will see in some K-12 environments. So really independent of the tile size. It could be oblong, it could be oval, it could be 2x4. The age or the color is immaterial in this instance for this model. Multimedia gateways have become very popular in classrooms, and we also have a product that will protect your gateways and lock them, because those gateways are very useful at home. So when they were first deployed, they were walking away pretty rapidly. Oberon designed the product you see on the right there with the projector and the gateway, the little bubble, so it too can be secured. More regulations on the retail front, something called the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. It's a mouthful. But basically, again, you want to restrict the physical access to the access points. Now, in the big box stores, you'll see the access points perhaps 24 to 35 feet up, a fairly restricted access. But in some stores, you'll see access points on end caps, basically within reach of any customer. That would go against this particular standard, and so we've had some success with the likes of retail, the TJXs of the world, and so on, to restrict the physical access to their APs within their retail environments. More of the same here without being repetitive, but one thing here is that this is a hard lid on the left. It's not a drop-in ceiling. But we can change out that trim if we need to, if your footprint of your access point changes. And we also, for the ceiling tile version, we have doors. Instead of replacing the entire ceiling tile version, you can replace the doors for just a fraction of the price. More of the same here. This particular model here is relatively new for us. This is the paintable vanity cover. Just a standard bracket, put the cover over the AP. Now it kind of blends in, especially if you paint it, and very inexpensive relative to some of our earlier models. Service providers are also taking advantage of the Oberon product. And this one here on the left can house any type, whether it's a distributed antenna system antenna, an AP, any type of transceiver or fiber optical network, which is also becoming very popular. So these enclosures are more than just access point enclosures. And as I touched on earlier, the ceiling mount, very convenient for those types of transceivers. The copper fiber terminations, and by the way, we have large enough ports so that if you have preterm fiber or copper, you can pull that preterm through a port, and we include a intumescent fire stop with all of our products, so that once the cable's pulled, put your fire stop in there and you're all ready to go. Basically, that's it. I jumped the gun and I mentioned this last point here. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, come back and see me. I'm back on the far right. And I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks for your time.